The polar archipelago of Svalbard was first discovered by Willem Barents in 1596, although there is disputed evidence of use by Pomors or Norsemen. Welcome to TIT TV. Whaling for bowhead whales started in 1611, dominated by English and Dutch companies, though other countries participated. At that time, there was no agreement about sovereignty. Whaling stations, the largest being Smeerenburg, were built during the 17th century, but gradually, whaling decreased. Hunting was carried out from the 17th century by Pomors, but from the 19th century, it became more dominated by Norwegians. Exploration was initially conducted to find new whaling grounds, but from the 18th century, some scientific expeditions took place. These were initially large-scale, but from the late 19th century, they became smaller and increasingly focused on the interior. The most important scientific explorers were Balthasar Matthias Kielhau, Adolf Erik Nordenskiold, and Martin Conway. Sustainable mining started in 1906 with the establishment of Longyearbyen, and by the 1920s, permanent coal mining settlements had been established at Barentsburg, Grommet, Pyramiden, Svea, and Ny-Ålesund. The Svalbard Treaty came into effect in 1925, granting Norway sovereignty of the archipelago, but prohibiting warlike activities and establishing all signatories the right to mine. This both eliminated the mare liberum status of the islands and also saw a name change from the Spitsbergen archipelago to Svalbard. By the 1930s, all settlements were either Norwegian or Soviet. During the Second World War, the settlements were first evacuated and then bombed by the Kriegsmarine, but rebuilt after the war. During the Cold War, there were increased tensions between Norway and the Soviet Union, particularly regarding the building of an airport. There was limited oil drilling, and by 1973, more than half the archipelago was protected. Starting in the 1970s, Longyearbyen underwent a process of normalization to become a regular community. The first undisputed discovery of the archipelago was an expedition led by the Dutch mariner Willem Barents, who was looking for the Northeast Passage to China. He first spotted Bajornoya on 10 June 1596, and the northwestern tip of Spitsbergen on 17 June. The sighting of the archipelago was included in the accounts and maps made by the expedition, and Spitsbergen was quickly included by cartographers. Vernean Henry Hudson explored the islands in 1607. The first hunting expedition to Bajornoya was organized by the Muscovy Company led by Stephen Bennett in 1604. Although they found thousands of walrus, they were only able to kill a few because of their lack of experience. The following year, he was more successful and returned annually until they in a few years had achieved local extinction. After Jonas Poole reported seeing a great store of whales. Off Spitsbergen in 1610, the Muscovy Company sent a whaling expedition to the island under command of Poole and Thomas Edge in 1611. They hired Basque experts to hunt the bowhead whale, but both ships were wrecked and the crews rescued by English interlope. The following year, the Muscovy Company sent a new expedition, but was met by both Dutch and Spanish whalers. The company claimed exclusive rights to the area and sent away the contenders. In 1613, 7 armed English ships were sent on the expedition, which expelled a few dozen Dutch, Spanish, and French vessels. England offered to purchase the rights from Denmark, Norway in 1614, but the offer was turned down. In 1614, the English and Dutch partitioned the island, as the aggression was hampering the profitability of both groups. That year, the Netherlands created Noordske Compagnie as a whaling cartel. After the Muscovy Company fell into financial difficulties some years later, the Noordske Compagnie got the upper hand and was able to dominate the whaling and fend off the English. They established themselves in the northwestern corner of Spitsbergen, around Albert Island, and only permitted a limited Danish presence. The English whaled further south, while the French were allocated to the north coast and the open sea. Initially, all nations hired Basque whalers, although they gradually disappeared after their knowledge was learned by their companions. The British gradually took the lead in Arctic whaling, but by around the start of the 19th century, bowhead whales were scarce around Spitsbergen, and the whalers moved elsewhere. I hope you guys enjoy this video. To please make sure like and subscribe my channel so you never miss any video from TIT TV.